HVAC Shop Talk is proudly brought to you by the following sponsors: Refrigeration Technologies, Yellow Jacket, Amp Probe, UEI Test Instruments, Blue One Energy, and BACHARACH. Support the sponsors that support HVAC Shop Talk.
Marching 6x6, the little stops to pick up 6. They all go marching down to the ground. Dun, dun, dun. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, the little one stops to go. All marching down to the ground. The ants go marching 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching 2 by 2. The little one stops to tie his shoe.
Guys, I'm pumping down the old Nordyne here. Medallion series Nordyne. Same one that came on my modular home many years ago, 2003. So I'm gonna pump it down. Guys, we got our electric furnace here. Never see one this new. It's kind of shocking. And our coil, Vortex coil. Our Heil heat pump. So I'm gonna wheel that sucker over there and take it out of the box. Our Heil all getting ready to be put in as soon as my recovery is done, which it is about done. Here's our Heil unit laying anyway. I need to go pick up another pad. The one is way below the surface there. So our other unit's over there getting ready to go to the scrapyard. I'm gonna go pick up a pad, some odds and ends so we can get to work out here. Our Heil sitting on the pad. I put it on the risers down there. Make sure it's got a little bit of height to keep it clean. I'm gonna head off to do a service call in Leland. And I'll be coming back over here with some washable filters for that unit.
For 4 miles.
Guys, I am on I-140 West, which I'm going to continue on for 4 miles until I hit US 421 South, and I'm heading over to Leland to take a look at a house that looks like it had a backed up drain. Goodman air handler. I think the air handler's in left-hand discharge. The old Goodman's in left-hand discharge used to grab water out of the pans real bad and sling it down the ductwork with the blower. I think that's probably what happened, but we're going to take a look at it. Alright guys, looking a little sweaty. Yep. Sorry, I didn't get too much film of that particular call because the gentleman pretty much, we stayed together and talked the whole time. He's a nice guy, moved down from New York. We were talking about New York because some of my family lives up there too. Or my grandmother lived up there until she passed away a couple years back up in Rochester. and we were talking about going up to the lake and how the lake was the coldest place on earth when the wind was blowing in the wintertime. And I guess that's what sunk the Edmund Fitzgerald. So I'm heading back to the job, the install job my brother is on. I have to pick up some filters. You can see over here is one of those mobile home filters, and the lady didn't want to reuse those even though they fit perfectly. She wanted to get something new because these are cut, had a little bit of jagged edge on them, so I can understand that. So we're going to find some like washable filter I can cut to fit, and we can just lay on top of the coil. Putting about 7-8 ounces of refrigerant, trying to get our subcoolant near 10. We're up near 8. We'll give it a few minutes. Starting her up, running good. Got to unload the truck, but these guardians won't let me be. Hey guys, I'm just gonna be your buddy. No need to run away. Don't get excited. Okay. Guys, we're looking at this duct I'm re-insulating here, and I'm getting a lot of, you see condensation down there flopping from the supply duct because it's so cold. Let's see. Really great connection down there. Not good. Guys, you can see the sweat along the bottom of the air handler here. I've re-insulated the bottom of the plenum, but it's still awful cold coming out. 50 degrees because of how it's zoned, which I'll explain a little bit when I leave. We redid the drain last time, so some other things need to be repaired. I'll probably take that up right there too, but the bypass is closed, and I'll explain why that is too. The imperfect zone system, the only kind around. Well guys, I'm sweaty as a swarthy bitch. I just came out of the attic. I told myself I'm not gonna be up here long. I don't need my fan. You know, that was a fucking mistake. Should have taken my fan. My fan is so light and mobile. Yet I resisted, and I paid the price of a couple gallons of sweat. Oh yeah, it's fantastic. But I had to rewrap that bottom of that particular duct because water ran into it when that drain overflowed. So I rewrapped that, and I cut along the bottom and took it off. The biggest pain in the butt on that duct, you have to kind of climb around it to the back of the attic to get to it because there's ductwork coming off of it everywhere. It's not done in a way where you can access it real easily, which is kind of a pain in the ass, but you know, it is what it is. So I replaced that. I had Reflectix. You know, there's different opinions on Reflectix. It's real easy for me as a service guy to carry some Reflectix, so even the little 2x rolls or 18-inch rolls. So I carry those. I double it up. Again, I don't know what the R value of doubled up Reflectix is. You know, with the airspace, they do better. But I don't know what happens when you just double it up. So maybe someone knows the answer to that one. I do not. Maybe it doesn't mean anything, and I wasted my time. Who knows? I know we're at least R4, if not R5 or 6. So I finished that up, and what I noticed when I was sealing it up and putting it back together is there was a lot of air coming in from around the connection to where that duct fit the newer air handler, because there was an older one there originally and they fit that newer one in there. So I tried to seal up as many of those with tape as I could. I got a lot of them. I could tell some of the air was still leaking, but it wasn't quite that rush of air like having an open outlet in the attic. It was a lot less than when I started, so I told the lady there was a lot of air leaks. I sealed up as many as I could, and she was thankful. And the only way to really get it complete is to rip that insulation off completely, because you could really see around the collars coming off that duct where there was a little bit of mold growing around the collars where it had been really wet right there. So the insulation is real thin, or there's no insulation right there. There's just tape kind of where two pieces of insulation meet. There might be a gap and a piece of tape put over them. You can tell where that open area is because there's a little mold line right there. But that's it for this call, and I guess I'm off to the next one. I am heading off to a call this morning. Unit I put in about a year ago. He said the outdoor unit's not running, so I'm gonna go check it out. It is a Nordyne unit, and I've had issues with some of the Nordyne units I put in the past where the run capacitors are complete shit and go out after about a year. Also, he had some drainage issues. His drain just, for some reason, the trap got clogged up 7 months into running. So I'm gonna check that as well. So we'll see what's going on there. Right now, we're waiting for a hurricane. I don't even know what hurricane it is. It's not a hurricane anymore, probably. It's centered over Justin Gonzalez's house, but we're waiting for it to come hit North Kakalaka as a tropical storm. But I'm trying to get these calls in before that happens. So I got 1, 2, and then a meeting. So we'll see how many of those I can actually do before I have to come home. Yep, it's the drain. Good morning, everybody. I was just heading out to a job. It's Labor Day now. One job today, because a lady called me a couple days ago, and I said I couldn't get out there till this morning, so I couldn't come out there yesterday. We had family functions. So I'm heading out to a job. I installed a compressor in this job a few years back, and it says tripping the breaker, so hopefully we don't have another dead compressor. It's a less than optimal situation. I think it's a 2009 Goodman dry, well, it might be a dry charge, like a 2010 dry charge. And it's hooked up to like a 1990 something Ream air handler. And I do believe the TXV in that air handler wasn't working very well. Someone on these Ream units, they'll have a TXV and a piston for metering device. It'll have a TXV, then after that they'll have a oversized piston as well. And it won't be a normal piston, it'll be a real big one. But these geniuses who put this Goodman in were halfway decent. And what I mean is they decided they would change the piston to the one that came with the Goodman unit. But unfortunately that is not the right piston for the Ream air handler, because if they looked around the corner it had a TXV. So this thing was running real high superheat, and I switched out the piston to the correct one, but the superheat was still pretty high. It would maintain between a 20 and 30 degree superheat, so it wasn't doing very well. It was cool, but again, not an optimal situation. Of course, the coil sizes are off of where they should be for a 13 SEER heat pump. So it's been through the mill, so we'll see if it killed another compressor. If so, then hopefully we'll change out the entire system, because I hate to put another compressor in the damn thing, have it go out. But yeah, I was watching Greg Fox this morning. It's number 5 out of 5, well, 5 out of however many he's doing. Business videos is pretty good. I didn't get to watch the whole thing because I went to a bad signal area. But I left off, he was talking about Home Advisor, and Yelp, and things like that. A lot of that I have no experience with. Yodel. I apologize. I have to do it every time I talk about Yodel. I'm not even quite sure what Yodel is, to be frank with you. I'm a very bad businessman. Well, I'm out here on a Goodman unit, and I checked the run capacitor, said the compressor's not working, said it tripped the breaker, then all of a sudden it stopped tripping the breaker. So I have 2 of the lines to the compressor here. Open line. And these aren't the common, so it's not thermal overload. We attach it to the common. Open line. We have 112.4 pounds here. I want to check and make sure just in case it's blown the power pack a little bit underneath it. Let's see. I don't want it to. Interesting.
Zachary, I have the system inside in the off position. Is that right for what you want?
Has it been off the whole time?
I turned it off Friday night because it was just running, just the fan. You know, once
But the fan was still running when I got here.
But that's what I don't understand.
But it was set in off inside.
It's set on off inside.
Huh.
Because I was sitting there thinking, how could the fan be running? I don't.
It
hear
shouldn't be.
In the,
I was kind of wondering that myself because once I turned it off here and looked down at the relay, you see it's energized whenever it's running. It wasn't energized.
Oh.
So something has gone wrong inside.
Okay. Cool.
And the fan's receiving power. That's why I was running slowly as well.
Okay.
It's getting sort of it's getting like a backward signal of
charge.
electricity from a different place. And
okay, but I didn't know if you wanted it that way or if you wanted it in the on position.
you can leave it off. It's fine. When I put the meter on the leads that are going to the compressor, it showed that there was no connection inside. So I'm trying to see why it's saying that. Because it's supposed to be a degree of connection, so to speak.
Right, okay.
Something very bad has happened to this compressor. Oh, that fell off. No short to ground. It runs really quiet. 21 volts from the defrost board to the common on the capacitor, which is the run winding. So from common to run, 21 volts. So it's trying to run. Alright, we have 21 volts perhaps coming from a high resistance across the fan motor. I'm not sure. This is kind of an interesting situation. So 21 volts. So we'll see what happens when we push the contactor in and put power through on that other leg, so our load is on that fan motor with that high resistance. Let's see what happens as far as the amps. Not too bad. Let's turn it on. Let's see what happens. Still have our 21 volts here. Let's see what happens when we disconnect that common from the fan. That was an interesting call, guys. Turns out the inside of that compressor, which pretty much was chopped salad, I guess. I'm not sure. Can't see the inside, but open line on every single line. Compressor's cool. No issues there. This compressor, something happened to it. It tripped the breaker, and then nothing. So it burned up. Something bad happened to that compressor. The fan running all the time was pretty interesting. And what had happened is the fan was running. I'm watching the traffic in front of me roll in random directions. Where you driving, buddy? Good morning, guys. I am heading downtown again, downtown Wilmington. Have to check out an AC, and the guy says he wants to clean it, so we'll see what it looks like whenever I get there at a barbershop. So we're gonna see what's going on down there. Have another preventive maintenance after that, and that's pretty much all for today. Not too busy today. It's been cooler the last few days, so it's kind of slowed down a bit, which is kind of nice. But tomorrow looks like I'll have 2 or 3 calls, so won't slow down too long. Looks like we're gonna be cleaning up a Goodman unit today. That's a lot of gas meters. I'm not quite sure that's good. So I go in to change, or not change it, but turn on the disconnect. This is what I get. Awesome. Today I will surely spread the unit out, but it's sitting kind of on grade, so I don't want to put too much cleaner in it, or else it's just going to get bogged down in the bottom of it. Unless I build this thing up, which I'm not going to do right now until I run it. Spraying off the top there, trying to clean it off. I sprayed it off with the water hose, which is pretty good, just didn't put any cleaner on. Well, she's running a little bit above target, and then we're not getting good airflow out of the top of the condenser here. We're getting a little bit out the side of it here. So we might have a non-OEM fan motor. Probably looks like the blade is fine. Maybe the motor itself is not. That's why we're getting these skewed numbers. It's still cooling inside, but my numbers are definitely high. Good morning, guys. I am heading off to the county dump. Yesterday, my last call was canceled. Evidently, she texted Square back to cancel, but I guess I never got the message. I'm not quite sure how that part works, so I'll probably need to check on that to see if they can actually text Square back. If there's like this thing that says, to cancel, text back cancel, and we'll notify Zach, which never happened. But I texted her to let her know I was coming, and she said she wasn't home, so I said, let's do it on a different day. I don't know when that'll be. It's a PM. But today, I have a few different calls. I have a meeting at 9 o'clock to look at a job in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. And then I'll be traveling across to Wilmington, which is the neighboring town, and checking out a service call where the unit doesn't run consistently. And I have a couple other calls. I don't know which ones of those I'll actually do today, because one of them might not be necessary. It's a no cooling call where I told them the system needed to be changed out, and they called me back and said it wasn't cooling, and I said that's because it's in awful shape. You need to change it out. Then they said they'd get back to me again. So I may never see them again. The other call is just, it's a result of a PM. I came up with a couple things that need to be changed on a unit, which is a contactor, which we'll put in a SureSwitch, and the capacitor was a little bit weak. And that guy, I had it for today, but I don't know if I have enough time to get to it. And but that one's for sure. I just don't know when I'll actually do it. So we'll see if that happens today or not. It's all a part of timing. So we'll see how it goes, and you guys can come along for the ride. Looking at a job here down at the beach. 2 outlets there. We got 1, 2 outlets here, and they're exposed, so I can reach up in there to see. Had to come up with some kind of trunk idea. Where's our right hand? You're our right hand. Okay. One here. I don't know how we reach reach that one. We'll see. One up here. The ceiling. This has all been ripped out because of mold. Right here. And right here. Mechanical closet is here. Old return. And exposed up there. So you get some sort of plenum in place. We have a hub drain down there. And what looks like 5/16 copper and 3/4. So a little bit low on the copper side. Let's see what size filter we have. Hard to tell, looks like 20 by 25. 20 by 25 filter. Alright, that would indicate 2.5 tons, but this copper doesn't. Love the idea of that either.
Especially after they have, and Pure Clean I know is so good, especially after they have cleaned them, they tested positive. They re-clean them, and they're still quote unquote mold. So before I come in here and put in, and they said, you know, you just let us know, Karen, we'll come in and take out, you know, Robert said we'll come in, and that's sort of what I was going to text you last night. I don't know if I got that part last week. But we'll come in and take out the ductwork and downstairs, the vents, and the air conditioning. But
alright guys, I'm up on the roof now. Up on the roof. Oh yeah, she's beautiful. Looking for a unit. It's nice, this door's open too. $23.01. Might be the Ream dry charge. Could be her, 36. Probably is. Yeah, I'll take a beating up here. I'll tell you one thing, the one that is the one for this apartment should have no gas in it. That one has gas in it. So that ain't it. Let's get the crap out. So guys, I'm leaving the beach condo here, where it's been torn apart in the name of mold remediation. The lady here is very, well, she is a talker, which is fine, but she talked, I've been here for about an hour and a half. So she was talking up a storm. She was just giving it the Gundy, verbally. And, you know, the house has been torn apart and remediated. All the ductwork's been taken out of one of them. She has another unit where they haven't taken the ductwork out. This is like a maze getting out of here. They've taken the ductwork out. And the other one, they haven't taken the ductwork out, sorry. But she's concerned about it. I think there's water coming in from the roof, which is kind of funny because she took me up on the roof to show me where the access is for the equipment. Turns out the unit that was matched with the old, whatever was in the closet there, was a Train XR11. It's been there since 2005, and then the original unit was probably in the closet. So it's been there for a while. I don't know, whatever she said that they worked on, which was American Home Shield. So American Home Shield came in April of last year and worked on something, or American Home Shield's contractor, let me say that, came in there and worked on something last April, and by the end of the summer, the whole thing was full of mold. And they said it had to do with the ceiling and joints of the HVAC, which means, I don't know, she said there was some confusion about changing out something. I think they probably changed out the air handler, and she was confused, and maybe the original wasn't there, because they had to upgrade the breaker. They put 10 kW in it, which I think is overkill for the beach anyway. And it was 3 tons on some of the units and 2.5 tons on other units, and I would definitely think that 2.5 tons would be more than enough for that particular area. You want to have a decent run time. With 3 tons, you might get, you know, improper dehumidification, just, you know, off the cuff, just looking at it. And I haven't run any of the numbers for it. I got to put together a design for this thing, and it's going to be pricey, so I don't know if it's going to be a successful bid or not. She seems to trust me because I was referred to her by another gentleman which she trusts, but sometimes people get a certain idea about how much things cost, and they cost way more. So we'll see. I don't know. It looks like probably a 2-day job, you know, plus it needs a crane, so there's a few $100s to hire a crane and stuff like that. And it's always, you got a balancing act to try to get everybody there at the proper time, la la la. So, but I'm heading off to do a service call in Forest Hills, which is a old money subdivision in Wilmington, and I'm gonna take you guys along for the ride. I'm leaving the old Wrightsville Beach, going across the bridge of the Intercoastal Waterway. That's like the sign said. There's our run capacitor. And what happened is, yeah, like the start capacitor will start the unit, and you see all the stuff down here at the bottom from the inside of the capacitor. I haven't seen one like that in a long time. It's probably been 3 or 4 years. But guys, I was driving out of the subdivision. Let me turn my boisterous air conditioning down. I was driving out of the subdivision here, all the subdivision, and all these houses back in the day. I did all these houses. I was leading the crew for my father's company that installed all the ACs on every single one of these, about 20 or 30 of them. Every single one you see passing by, and every single one of them was train, man. I was throwing in train. XR12s and XR13s, but not so much up here in this part of the subdivision. But the stuff we just passed was all Talontown, and every bit of it was train. So I mean, sometimes it gets lost, but I have quite an experience with train over the years. A lot of them were, I guess, TEC air handlers. You know, they have TWE air handlers, and I'm trying to remember the other name of them. I think there's a TEE, if I remember correctly. I probably don't. It's been a long time. I think TEC was the ones we were using for 13 SEER. So it seems like a long time ago, but just got to go repair one down the street with the capacitor with, I guess you could say aneurysm or something. That thing was blowed up. Well, I just got a call from a lady that I looked at her job. She wanted to see about changing her unit out. She never did it. It's been a couple months, and now the unit's not working. Shocker. Shocking. So, time to go practice my salesmanship. Let me practice here. Yes, ma'am. We can put you in a nice 2-stage model. Oh shit, they're inverters. Hold on a second. Let me try that again. Alright. Yes, ma'am. We can put you a quality 5-speed inverter in. And if it breaks, we'll have to hire someone that has a 4-year degree to work on it. Because I don't know what it's doing. I'm just kidding. It's a trailer. Guys, we got a unit where the compressor and fan aren't running. Now we're going to check out this infrared capacitor. The fan would spin. It wasn't very free spinning. It didn't take off when I did spin it. So we'll check this run cap. I shut the power off to it. We got some burning there on the contactor too. See what's going on. Even though I haven't disconnected the leads to the compressor, I'm going right from the contactor. But the fan's in thermal overload too, so whichever one ends up first, I'll be able to tell if the fan comes out because the ohms will be a little bit higher. And guys, you can see we have 1.1 ohm now. That's the compressor itself out of thermal overload. When you see a higher value in the double digits, that's the fan, which was 14 to, if you spin it around, you see the value change if you spin the blade around. But once the compressor's out of thermal, it's going to stay right where it's at. It's going to be a low number in the single digit ohms. Good morning, guys. I'm heading out to do a couple calls today and some administrative items. Gonna add a SureSwitch and a new capacitor to a unit I was doing preventive maintenance on a few weeks ago and found those two issues. Contactor's pretty burnt, and the capacitor was about 10 microfarads off of where it should be on the compressor side. I think it was like a 60 and it was doing 51. So I'm replacing both of those, and I'm going to a no cooling call in Wilmington. A new customer is actually Home Advisor, and every now and then I actually get one of those. Home Advisor pays off, but it's it's an exercise in patience, and there are some frustrations for sure. Then I had to bring a portable AC. I'm gonna the apartment building where I do a lot of my work. You guys see those Train TWP units. The lady that owns those apartments has a few rental properties, and one of her rental properties is going to get a new system. And I'm going to take the portable they use in the apartments over there to cool that house while it takes a few days for me to get everybody together to do that work. And that's pretty much it. There's one more. A daycare in the town where I used to live. I used to live across the street from it, and you guys have seen that in some of my Talent 875 videos. They had a flood during the last hurricane. Every time it rains a lot, their yard floods and the ditch floods in front, and it flooded into their crawl space, which is supposed to be sealed and waterproof. That's what the company told her. But she thinks it is not as waterproof as it could be. But we're gonna see. We're gonna take a look at it, see what it looks like down there. They have sump pumps and stuff like that, but we'll see what's going on there as well. Stick around. This is our 60/5 capacitor. See, it was 55 when I came here in December, and then when I got here in August, it was 51, so it continued to go down and down, so we're going to go ahead and switch it out. And we have a burnt contactor, so we're going to put in an Emerson SureSwitch, which will be much better for the life of the contactor, and hopefully these two items will last the life of the unit. I think we're about 9 or 10 years old on this unit right now. Actually, it's 10. It's 1606 Armstrong Air package unit. These run capacitors here don't seem to be very good. I have lost quite a few of these over the last few months. I've seen on relatively new units that are only just a couple years old, sometimes not quite that old. There's a Trade Pro capacitor I had on the truck. It's been on there for a while. I tested it, it's still good to go though. I haven't bought one of these in several months, so I know it's been on the truck for a while. So I'm glad to see it go. Okay guys, I have the base mounted right here for the SureSwitch. You can see it. I got the contactor still in place. I just pull it out of the way, take wires off one by one and put them on the SureSwitch. And then the top of it will mount on to that with these screws right here. And then we can go ahead and get this thing fired up, and I can hit the test button and let it run. So we don't have to wait on delay. And that'll test both the capacitor and the SureSwitch. I have my contactor in place, SureSwitch, new capacitor, have our low voltage up here, our wire 1 in common. We have our line coming in right here on these two lugs. Nothing on the crankcase heater. There's no crankcase heater for this unit. And of course that would be on the common is where that's heading. There's a switch here to the top side where we have our fan common, compressor common. There's the fan common, compressor common wire. It's the run winding wire, and we have the jumper over to the capacitor on the capacitor common. So I'm going to fire it up and we'll press the test button and make sure she fires up like she's supposed to. I'm going to hit the test button, which is right down here, and that'll give us a 5-second compressor and fan runtime. The fan's already on because I guess it's calling for cooling. So we're going to push it down for 1 second. You'll see the light change color here. And then we get a few seconds of runtime, and then we should turn on naturally here in just a minute. We'll make sure that happens as well. Well, the giant boat is finally finished. Time to go to the next call. All right, guys, I am heading down the road to go to my next call, and it is in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's no cooling. From what I can gather from the location of it and the fact that the mother is going to pay via credit card, it must be a college student from the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. So let's see what's going on, and may you all have pleasant dreams. We got an AR 32-1 from 2002. It's frozen. Do you want to build a snowman? Okay. Let's see what's going on. Our ice is all gone. Blower's still running. Good. Guys, looking at our pressures here, 195. Our target for 10 series, this is 12, but it's not going to be too far off. Big difference anyway. 55 when we have 85-degree return air is going to be way too low. Superheat's way too high. No subcooling, definitely low on charge. So we'll see what they want to do. It's CPLJ24, it's 12 SEER 2-ton Goodman from 2002. I have got about 2 pounds in there. We'll let it level out. 27 degrees of superheat now. Target's right below 20, so we're getting pretty close. We'll let it run for a minute. Not a whole lot of subcooling. It's probably due to the fact we have an AR-32 air handler up there, and most likely with the original piston in it, and not with the proper piston for this unit. Hey, but that's all right. Same old, same old. A little bit below 2 tons, even though we're a 2-ton machine. Got a 14.4 split. Split ought to be probably a little bit larger than that, but we'll see what's going on here in a second once we let it run. Guys, I got it about where I'm going to leave it. 80, 221, only 1.5 degrees of subcooling, 2 degrees of subcooling. See our target head pressure, temperature, or pressure is a little bit higher than that. One of the reasons is it does 10 SEER on that estimation. We have 14.7 target superheat. Our superheat's almost dead on. If we took it down, try to get a little bit closer, that'll end up bottoming out because of the piston size, and this number will still be too small, so I might as well keep a little bit of superheat on it so we're not just flooding it back trying to get a little bit of subcooling. So because we'll get subcooling out of the unit, but the evaporator, you know, will be kind of flooded by the time you get enough in there to where you normally see it like 5, 6, 7, 8 degrees. So we're gonna leave it like that. This will keep bouncing around. Looks like it's going up a little bit now, but I like it right there. That's about as good as you can do on these sort of systems. You see how low the subcooling gets, but obviously it's a leaker too, so you figure out where it's leaking from. I am getting the leak detector ready. It's warming up. I'm gonna open up this door, see if we have a leaky evaporator. We're gonna be sneakers. Oh no. I hear you, you rascal. I hear you. He's a leaker. These things are real bad leakers a lot of the time. See, she rings off back in the back. Not really. Yep, she's leaking back there on those U-bends. I'm heading home now. Got done charging that unit up. Evaporator is a leaker, pretty common, 832. I think I've actually changed 1 or 2 of those this year, the same model. I know I can remember doing one Goodman, and I know there was at least one more, but I can't remember where it was. So this one made the 3rd one, but the same model unit. And they get to this lifespan of around 10, 12, 13, 14 years, and they start leaking. A lot of them leaked earlier than that, but it's pretty common, you know. Not a screamer like some of the other ones, but still it was leaking. So the lady paid up, you know, she lives in a little town called Clinton, with about an hour north of Wilmington, which actually isn't too awful far from my house, because I'm about half an hour north of Wilmington. So she paid on over the phone with a credit card, which is becoming more and more common. You know, I use Square. I was using Square, or like a program that goes with Square to count your inventory, but I kind of stopped using that because the guys were talking about, hey, they just throw the tags of the, like if they get a capacitor they rip the top off of it, put it into like a box or a bag, and that's how they keep track of their inventory. And because shop inventory was $30 a month, I said, well, some things are hard to keep track of, so I'm just going to do the thing with the tags. I like that. I ripped my SureSwitch tag off, but no one in town has one. United Refrigeration, I was in there earlier, and they're a pretty good bunch of guys. I bought some Arco Air products from them, and some of their R series, which is sold under the name Maritherm, which is kind of like a Payne unit. Just like ICP, but just a little bit cheaper, more cheaply made. And they told me that, well, the guy walks up to me and says, is there anything we could stock for you. And I was sitting there thinking, man, I'm a one-man company. I said, aren't you looking for the big company? You're not talking to me, are you? You're not talking to a one-man company. He said, no, I want to stock whatever you need. I said, why don't you get some SureSwitches? And the guy looked at me and goes, a what? I said, a SureSwitch, electronic contactor. The other guy knew what it was. He's like, oh yeah, the White Rogers thingy. I was like, yeah. Well, it's Friday morning. Friday morning, the kids are dropped off at school. I did a whole bunch of website stuff as far as the new blog comes out every morning, so I try to put it on the different Facebook groups, so I did that. Now I'm doing something much more dramatic, washing the dishes. Leave in a few minutes to go change out a compressor in Leland. And then I have to check out some ductwork that got some water in it from the hurricane that came through last week. It should be a busy day. I'm trying to make it back in time so I can pick up my kids at 3 o'clock at their school. And then all three of them have soccer practice tonight. Two of them, of course, the twins are on the same team. And then my oldest son is on a team coached by my brother. And luckily for me, they're all at the same park, or else it'd be very difficult. And then now it'll be all the HVAC for this week, unless I count figuring up a job tomorrow I'm going to work on down at Wrightsville Beach. So our unit for today, our scroll we're going to put in there in place of that reciprocator. Comes with all these great items in the OEM pack. I'm going to look for the acid test kit and check and see how much acid we have in this system. We get a capacitor strap, 3 capacitors, a contactor, and an acid test kit, some fittings. They're actually a pretty good little set. I like them. As you can see, it did turn a little red, so it does have some acid in the system. We're replacing the compressor, which will take care of most of the oil sitting in the system, and I'm also going to install one of these dryers for system cleanup. We'll probably have to replace it a few times. Went ahead and did our compressor wiring. We have 3 wires there as well. Common, black. We have run, lighter color gray. And then we have start, the darker color gray going to the capacitor. I'll probably leave this hard start in there. Probably don't need it, so I'll think about that a little bit. We technically don't need it because of the scroll, but we'll see. There's wires in there. We have a stray right there. Had to redo the whip. Alright guys, our old compressor is gone. I'm going to clean the base pan up and I'm going to set the new scroll in there. I think I can find a good angle for it. Might even braze a pipe on before I get started. Guys, I have the compressor fitted up. I have the discharge line turned and bent around to where the old muffler is over there. The 3/4 line kind of went in at a good angle after I turned the compressor facing backwards. And the plug plenty long enough to wrap around the backside. Go over here. So I'm going to go ahead and braze this up, flow a little bit of nitrogen. Then I can switch to the dryer on the outside. Guys, I got a reversible Sporlan catch-all dryer. This one's built for cleaning up systems that have had issues. So what I'll do is I'll leave this thing in there and let the system run for a few weeks, come back and check it, and see if we need to switch this dryer out again, which we probably will. But give it at least a week. Knowing me, I'll probably be held away for a few weeks before I'm able to get back and check it and swap it out again. Alright guys, I got my super dryer in there, contactor, all that new jazz. Vacuum's pulling down my core mover through a rod, so to speak, so I'm not using it right now, for better or for worse. Reran the whip because the old one was kind of dangling right there. It looked like hell. Now this one can dangle like there, but at least looks clean and shiny. I haven't tied it back in over there yet. I'll do that in just a minute before I start it up. Next step will be putting refrigerant in, which will be 407C, as you can see, and then we'll get down to business of charging it up. We got 407C, 89.6 on the low side, 241 on the high side, just a hair below both targets. 14.2 on the split. We're still too hot inside to get a tonnage in BTU, but that should change here shortly. 5 on the subcooling, 8 on the superheat. So I don't know if I'll change that charge at all, because really it's We got a mismatched system. We're not quite to the factory charge, but you know what? On a lot of the mismatches, that's what happens. There is a TXV, but as this thing runs, I bet that subcoolant comes up a little bit more when it gets cooler inside. But we'll see. We'll let it run for a little while. I got my compressor put in and finished up. End up adding just under 8 pounds of 407C. So everything was working out just fine. Did my manifold report so I can see what was happening with it whenever I go back. I use the geotagging feature as well. It's kind of nice. I went to a job that I had been to previously, and I was able just to pull up all the information because of where I was at. You just search it in those units that are nearby up here. You just pick whichever one you're working on. So that was really nice. But I hadn't done that at this customer yet, so I went ahead and did that. And I told her that we're going to come back in a few weeks and check the level of acid in the system and change out a dryer again if we need to. And hopefully it's not too bad off. But I would suspect that we might need to change that dryer one more time. But we will wait and see how bad off it is. That's about all for this week too. I gotta take a look at a job, and that daycare I was talking about earlier in the video, where it was flooded, and I started thinking about it. I said the ductwork's flooded, that the units were flooded too, so it'd be kind of interesting. Evidently they're working, or else they would have called me. So we shall see. I'm sure they look pretty awful when you take the control panels off of the. I bet they look pretty awful after being underwater for a little while. All rusted out and crap like that. So we shall see. I'll either take a look at that later today or more likely tomorrow morning. HVAC Shop Talk is a proud partner with TruTech Tools. At TruTechTools.com you find the best service and the best prices on the newest HVAC tools. They also run promos, which we have here on the screen and a link to in the description of this video. So make sure you check them out and use the Shop Talk discount code to save 8% off your purchase.